Hi, I'm Mike. I have worked as a professional photographer and filmmaker for pretty much my entire life. I have been very fortunate to work in many great locations all over the world, and at present I mostly focus on wildlife and nature.
My name is Evan. I've been taking pictures since I was 12 years old. My father got me started in photography, and for the last 6 or 8 years, I've been focusing exclusively on wildlife photography, nature photography, and some video work.
I've been working with bears since I was a teenager growing up in the Rockies. I've filmed and photographed black bears, brown bears, grizzly bears, and spirit bears. But I've never seen a polar bear in the wild.
I've loved photographing bears, and a few years back I took a trip to Canada's Hudson Bay to photograph polar bears. The bears were amazing, but it wasn't the polar setting that I dreamed of.
Then a friend contacted me, saying he was leading a polar bear photography trip to Svalbard. This seemed like an opportunity for both of us.
But we never dreamed that our trip would become a story of its own.
Svalbard is a group of islands north of Norway and east of Greenland.
We flew into a town called Longyearbyen, which is the northernmost town anywhere in the world. At this time of year, it is light 24 hours a day, with the sun barely dipping below the horizon.
It was cold when we arrived, almost 30 below. We grabbed our bags and headed into town.
Longyearbyen is a town of about 2,500 people and 3,000 snowmobiles, what the locals call scooters. It's a small town surrounded by ice, snow, and beautiful mountains.
The plan for the trip was to travel by scooter to the east coast, about 60 miles away. There, we would pitch some tents, roll out our sleeping bags, and start looking for polar bears.
We established our camp on a bluff overlooking a bay filled with sea ice, icebergs, and hopefully polar bears. The view was spectacular. The facilities were a little basic.
The first 3 days went according to plan. We were able to capture images of bears, icebergs, and landscapes. But there were a few challenges.
We knew Svalbard would be cold. Temperatures could easily drop to minus 30. I think the part that we couldn't prepare for was working in the cold.
Once you took off your overmitts, your hands just got really cold, really fast, and they hurt, and they didn't work right. And then there was Bear Watch. It's almost 1 a.m. and I'm on Bear Watch. Every night, each of us takes an hour and we patrol the perimeter of the camp to make sure that we don't have any bears come wandering through, so that if we have time to take evasive action if needed. Getting a few hours of uninterrupted sleep was next to impossible.
During the morning of the fourth day, it warmed up to a balmy -8. And it started to snow.
Watching this huge male polar bear was a real treat.
But getting back to camp at around 11 p.m. was interesting. I could hardly see the scooter in front of me.
But we made it back and finally enjoyed a light dinner around midnight.
Next morning, it was still snowing. Most of our gear, even inside the tent, was covered in snow. And it was windy. Visibility was near zero.
We decided to make it a camp day. As each hour passed, the wind increased.
In the afternoon, we built snow walls to protect the tents. Then we retreated to the group tent, where there was a small heater, and waited. It was insane. The wind howled, snow blocks tumbled, tents collapsed.
Walking was sketchy. The cliff was just yards away, and the wind blasted us toward it. Around 11 p.m., our guides decided to abandon camp. We had a last snack, then drove off into the wind, snow, and whiteout.
It was an absolute leap of faith. At times, I could see nothing at all. I just pointed my scooter at where I last saw the scooter in front of me.
It may have been the most tense and challenging situation I've ever been in. Three hours later, we were safe.
Honestly, this trip was a real challenge. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I did it. And I could be tempted to do it again, but man, I don't know.
It was one of the most amazing trips I've ever done. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It's a magical place. But it also seems like a place that maybe human beings weren't meant to be.
Well, you know how a lot of cars have heated steering wheels? We got to talk to Sony and Canon and Nikon. We need heated cameras. That would make everything so much better. Imagine if you got your hands on the camera and the camera's warm. That would be so sweet.